Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's panel discussion. My name is Aaliyah Pollock, and I'm an AI Data and Technology Analyst at the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, also known as RICS. At RICS, we work across the entire property lifecycle, from land development and real estate to construction and infrastructure. We're a professional body with over 150 years of heritage, setting standards and providing trusted insight to support our 110,000 chartered surveyors across the globe. In my role here at RICS, I'm responsible for analysing the impacts of AI, data and technology across the built and natural environments, and this helps to ensure that our profession stays ahead of emerging trends. As part of this, I manage the RICS Tech Partner Programme, which bridges the gap between the surveying profession and tech innovators. The programme explores the use of innovative technologies like some of the examples you'll hear from in our panel today. We also produce thought leadership content and market insights for the profession. Today, we'll explore how innovation and technology is reshaping property transactions, from buying and selling to valuations and inspections, and the skills professionals need to thrive in this evolving landscape. So without further ado, let's introduce our panelists. Konrad, you're first on my screen, so I'll start with you.
Thank you very much, Aaliyah. Thanks for having me on. So I'm a lawyer by background. I started my career about 10 years ago in the property and finance space at Freshfields. And about 3 years ago, I wanted to buy a property here in London, and my purchase fell through. And that frustration has caused me to look deeply into the conveyancing process and really understand what's going on and why is this process so opaque? Why does it take so long? And what can we do to improve it, most importantly? And that was the moment the idea for Conveyo was laid out. We have now been going for 2 years with Conveyo. We streamline property transactions through our system with great results. We often get to exchange in about 4 to 6 weeks with the help of technology.
Great stuff. Florian, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Aaliyah. So similar to Konrad, my founding GeoSci started also from a personal issue. So we explain locations at GeoSci, and about 3 years ago, my wife and we moved to Hamburg, and I'm personally quite noise sensitive, and I wanted to figure out where are great locations that we can live, where I can sleep well at night, where I could work from home without being disturbed. And I thought, okay, there must be some solution for this, but unfortunately, actually, there was no good system, no good app that could directly tell me what the noise pollution at a particular location would be. So this was the time of COVID. I was previously a product manager and was developing a lot in my free time. So I built the first version of the location check that we have now. And from that focus originally on noise, the solution has evolved, basically answering all the important questions that people or real estate professionals have when they think about locations. So, for example, what's the quality of life? Are there any environmental risks? So, for example, risk of flooding, maybe risk of particular heat waves at locations. So that, ideally home seekers find the right locations they want, or professionals like surveyors or also real estate agents have all the information they need to do good valuations and to consult their clients. So this is the mission of GeoSci. That's what we're working on.
Great, thanks. AJ, do you want to go next?
Thank you, Aaliyah. Nice to meet you, everybody. Conscious now how loud my volume is going to be based on what Florian's investigation is going to be. But my name's AJ. I'm one of the founders for Taurgo. Like Konrad, like Florian, I think everybody here has probably had a personal experience relating to their software. My partner and I were trying to view properties in London to be able to purchase and rent, but logistically and time-consumingly, we didn't have the ability to get out of work to be able to view the properties. So we came up with a solution to be able to view properties digitally, and that's expanded into the AI field, whereby now we are producing inventories, inspections, and valuation reports based on the conditions of the properties, utilizing AI to use Gemini Vision to view a property and then be able to conduct and produce a report. And then from that, we can then pass it across to valuers to be able to then make a judgment call on the value and then be able to pass that across to estate agents. Again, there are products out there on the market, but there was a barriers to entry because of the cost. So we were able to make that a lot more cost effective, but I can go into more detail through the panel. So nice to meet you guys.
Thanks. Just a quick follow-up question. So do you have a background in property yourself, AJ?
My dad's an architect, RIBA, potentially your competitor. Same kind of accreditation. And my brother's a civil engineer. No, other than that, nothing else. My background has been in software solutions for large corporations.
Great stuff. And last but not least, Robin.
I'm writing that Aaliyah is going to edit out the RIBA comment, but my background is also in law, and I am the CEO and founder of Bamboo Auctions. Bamboo provides technology to estate agents and to large organizations to allow them to operate online auctions as a service. That basically means that using our technology, agents can speed transactions up by around about 80%. The average transaction time at the moment in the market is around about 6.5 months, which is insane. And it's only getting longer despite the ever-increasing list of PropTech businesses that are coming out. For some reason, it seems to be continuing to get longer. And we have managed, or using our technology, agents can actually sell properties in just 5 weeks. We use auctions as the underlying route to do this, and we've digitalized the entire process. So it's one level of our technology, it integrates into agents' websites, and it gives agents the ability to offer that service under their own branding.
So thanks, Robin, and thanks to all of our panelists for all of your introductions. So in recent years, we've seen a shift in how technology impacts property transactions, from virtual viewings becoming the norm during the pandemic to the introduction of AI tools for legal and inspection processes. Technology is actually really starting to shape the way that property transactions are conducted. For instance, according to a 2023 survey by Savills, the UK property market saw a 40% increase in digital property transactions compared to 5 years ago. So I'd like to explore all of your opinions on digital transformation within property and really explore where it is currently. So Konrad, if you don't mind, I'll start off with you. From your perspective, what would you say are some of the most outdated aspects of the property transaction process that technology could improve?
Well, yeah, thanks, Aaliyah. The property market is traditionally a market that is slow to adapt to innovation. And what we see today is that still many processes are largely manual and workflows are not optimized. And the results are such as we are seeing the longest transaction times ever. So despite there being efforts by digital helpers, if you want to call them so, lots of the work done is still siloed and therefore very slow. I believe with technology, we can streamline that process. We can automate many of the tasks that are done manually today, and it will help us to improve communication and to provide real-time updates to clients, which often they don't receive, and it creates this sort of opaqueness around the process that has been criticized so many times. And I think with AI becoming more powerful, we can use AI to analyze documents, to immediately identify potential issues, and really accelerate the transaction timeline.
Thanks, Konrad. And Florian, moving across to you, Konrad had touched on some uses of AI there. And when we look at the property transaction process, location data has an impact on a lot of stages in that process, whether it's valuation or conveyancing. So how do you see AI and location data influencing the property transaction process currently and in the future?
Thanks. Yeah, I think I'll touch on the first step, kind of selecting a property. I think their location data is important. And then afterwards, regarding the question of valuation. So firstly, I think when you're looking for a place to buy, this is a very important decision that in Germany people would usually do that once in their lifetime. I think in the UK this happens more often. Still, it's a very important decision where you really want to make sure you do the right choice. Yeah, and we all have our preferences regarding location. I think, Aaliyah, you told me about you wanting to walk your dog in the property, in the vicinity of your property that you would buy. For me, quietness is important. So many people have quite particular preferences. And right now, it's pretty hard to figure that out. At least in Germany, very often in the beginning of the process, you may not have the address of the property. And even if you have the address, then there are questions like maybe child friendliness or air pollution or flood risk, where as an individual, you're not really in the position to figure that out well for yourself. So I think this is something where location data could really help, because it can make all those factors that in the end influence the quality of life at that location transparent. So I think this is the first part where I see location data play a big role. And the second then is figuring out what's the right price for a property. All these factors that I just pointed out, they in the end influence the demand for a property, but often are hidden. So people only later on find out that it may be that there may be flight noise at the vicinity of the property. So in the end, figure out that this was not really the price they should have paid. So all those factors, I think they can also improve models to value properties correctly, and hopefully improve the quality, the transparency within the transactions.
Yeah, thanks. And another key tool that helps with that transparency is virtual viewings. So AJ, moving across to you, also touching on this AI piece, how has AI and digital tools like your digital viewing platform, how have they impacted the way that buyers and sellers interact with the property market?
Well, I think since COVID, I think digital viewing has now become more acceptable as a method to view properties. And with what we're doing, I think we're trying to take a little bit further of a leap into what is possible. So it's allowed for more accessibility for a lot more people to view properties. It broadens the horizon for estate agents from just being local estate agents to now being able to have national coverage through a digital platform. It's also increasing the efficiency for viewing conversion. So you can view a property digitally, narrow down your search, understand the limiting factors within the property, and then you'll be able to then produce a more comprehensive list of the properties that you want to view. With what we do is our platform allows you to be able to interact quite aggressively within the property, so you can go through the whole of the property in and out as a non-intrusive surveyor would do. And that gives a lot more intelligence for the buyer, which then makes them have a much more informed decision as to what they want to purchase. So I think it's moving in the right direction, because accessibility was a key factor and pain point for us personally to buy a property. And now with digital viewings, you can view a property anywhere, and it's not just limiting to the UK. We can view a property in the Bahamas on the beach as though we were there, and then narrow down our search as to what we want to be able to view.
Thanks. And finally, moving across to Robin, there's been a shift in the methods of which properties are sold in the UK. So how would you say that this shift towards online transactions has changed the landscape of property sales?
Yeah, well, I think certainly speaking from the technology that we have, agents are selling more properties faster. That's ultimately what we're aiming to do. So ultimately what we're doing at Bamboo, and we've done about 5,500 transactions now, and an average transaction time of around about 5 to 6 weeks. So it's definitely working. We've got a lot to do in general. I think the problem that's going on in the market at the moment is around that speed of transaction for agents in particular. And online transactions are, I think everybody wants a stress-free transaction. whether you're a surveyor, a buyer, a seller, an agent, no one wants a difficult transaction. And so it's really interesting to hear around the panel as well, all the different ways and all the different tools that are available to different areas, different sections of the transaction, of the sales cycle. All these different tools are available to try and ultimately make the transaction less painful. Certainly in the UK. So from our side, we're doing our bit to make transactions faster and more secure. But we're also, we also work with other suppliers, and I think that's the other key thing around it's that interoperability of prop tech suppliers. Agents and surveyors have they potentially have prop tech fatigue, and they are inundated with solutions in the market. And I think the ones that succeed and the ones that do well are the ones that can speak to each other and the ones that can collaborate with each other and work together to deliver almost a kind of an easy access, an easily accessible tool for ultimately the end user.
Just a follow-up question there for you, Robin. You said that, was it 6 weeks? Is that the average,
Yeah.
the sale time? So forgive me if I'm wrong in this, but is the conveyancing process not a lengthy part of this? And how do you speed up the process of that?
Yeah, so the conveyancing for us is done up front. So every property that comes into our space, into our marketplace, into our system has a legal pack prepared already. That pack contains documents that any reasonable buyer might expect to see as part of the transaction. So office copy entries, it might be title plans, copies of leases, things like that. We have a way of getting legal packs in a matter of days by getting search indemnity insurance rather than getting the full search, local authority searches. But apart from the local authority search, all the other searches tend to come in pretty quickly. Your environment, drainage, those kinds of searches tend to take 24 hours. In some cases they're instant. So from that point of view, we prepare, a pack is prepared for every single property. It's uploaded into our system for buyers to download and review, and each property then runs on a 28 day timer that gives those buyers an opportunity to review and download and review legal packs, arrange to go and view properties themselves, and place offers on the properties online with an immediate and legally binding transaction occurring when the timer reaches 0, provided the seller's reserve has been met or exceeded.
Great, that really seems like the logical step forward. Konrad, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. So Robin touched on the conveyancing process there and how some of these processes are automatic. How do you see the role of automation reshaping the role of legal professionals in this process?
Well, I think legal professionals play a crucial part in property transactions, and I don't think that will change. However, I think today a lot of their capacity is allocated to administrative tasks, and automation will optimize workflows, enhance accuracy, and ultimately free up a large portion of their time, of the legal professionals' time, which in turn empowers them to focus more on the actual legal problems. And I think that's one of the one of the misconceptions we sometimes deal with when we talk about technology in the legal sector, is that it's not about replacing legal professionals. It's about empowering them with the right tools so they can actually focus on the areas where they can add most value.
Yeah, like commonly AVMs, there's a fear that they will replace the role of a valuer. So Florian, I'd like to ask you a question. So you've got automated valuation models that automate that process of valuation, but then automation doesn't have to be used to that extent. It can also be used to automate the collection of locational data. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on how location insights can improve the accuracy and efficiency of property valuations without actually replacing that role of a property valuer.
Yeah, so I think it's exactly how you just said, that the role of location intelligence is not so much to produce a new black box where you would just push a button and then you get the valuation in the end, and this is going to be the final word on this. I think this is unlikely to be the case, at least in the near future. So I think it's much more about surfacing different data points that are relevant to value a property correctly and that are hard to acquire otherwise, and maybe not only bring them to light, but also make them actionable in a way that, let's say, for example, flood risks. You talk about floods that occur once in 100 years, once in 1,000 years, and so on. So this is a metric that may be hard to understand. And then the question becomes, okay, how do you turn this data into something that valuation professionals would be able to include in the way they currently appraise properties? And I think this is how location data is most useful at this point.
Thank you. And one more question for you, AJ. So an important process of evaluation is actually having a physical inspection of that property. And digital tool platforms allow valuers to actually have that immersive space without actually being in the property. So I'm curious to understand what opportunities you see for streamlining property inspections using technology like AI, for example.
Yeah, thanks, Aaliyah. Just touching back onto the AVM models, I think it makes common sense to be able to put the two together, because AVMs basically just give a binary figure as to what it is based on the information surrounding it. What we've done is been able to create an inspection report using the 360 camera, and then our AI actually analyzes all of the information within that virtual tour. And then it is able to create a valuation based on that, which can be passed across to a RICS valuer, who would be able to make the judgment on what the actual value of the property would be, and providing a non-intrusive survey for that. And I think it just improves the customer experience all the way around. I think it minimizes the amount of time that somebody's going to be keeping on constantly going into the property to do numerous surveys. It also allows the quality of the survey to be increased, because the AI backs up with standardized information about every property within that area. So you could go into a living room in Cardiff and you'd have the information relating to that property's size and value based on the available data there, and the energy efficiency as well, based on the EPC rating as well. So combining all of the information together, it would take a lot of time for a human interaction to do that, whereas AI increases that time. We can complete a valuation for a property within 15 minutes from inspection. So you can go through all of the bits and pieces all the way through, and then it can be passed across to an RICS valuer to then give a judgment.
A quick follow-up question. I'd actually be super curious, AJ. I don't know your solution in detail. I mean, you've spoken very much about how you focus on the property itself and the images and so on, that then makes the basis of the valuation report. From your experience, how about the surroundings of the area? Because I mean, this is the area that I'm working on. How does that feed into your valuations, or is this not currently part of your models?
So at the moment, the only thing that's lacking is sound, coincidentally, and conveniently, you're on this panel today, because that's something that everybody is saying, that they need to be able to open a window to be able to understand what the actual noise is around. We utilize the Google Street View data that comes through to be able to give that information. That's as much as we can go to in terms of the noise interaction, but everything else is just visual inspection. So interacting with a solution like yours, this is where blockchains could be able to be interacting with each other. We'd be able to then utilize your data to make it a much more comprehensive valuation, which then ticks every box. The only thing that we don't have then is the sense of smell.
So yeah, thanks everyone. I think it wouldn't be a fair discussion unless we looked at some of the challenges. So moving on, let's explore that. So even with the benefits of technology, there are always hurdles. For example, conveyancing, which is the process of transferring property ownership, is often slow and causes weeks of delays. So Conrad, I'd like to start this topic off with you, since conveyancing is your area of expertise. So what challenges do you face in integrating modern technology with traditional conveyancing processes?
Well, yes, there are of course many challenges in this transition. One I touched on earlier already is the cultural challenge, the resistance to change in the property market. That includes, of course, all parties. Some are more open to change than others, and as there are so many stakeholders involved in a property transaction, it is important that they all play to the same or sing to the same music. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult for anyone to make a significant impact there. Another important challenge is regulatory compliance. So conveyancing is framed by a complex legal and regulatory framework. So we have to ensure that technology stays within this framework and ensures compliance, which from my perspective is something that technology can be very useful to actually help with. So that's one of the, it's a challenge to stay in the framework, but at the same time, technology shows great promise there.
That was my follow-up question, actually. Do you see that as, so regulation, do you see that more as a barrier or a driver?
Well, I mean, it's certainly both, I think. Generally speaking, in this market, some of the regulatory requirements originate from the process as it used to be. So there's also a challenge for the regulator to actually stay up to date, provide guidance, and create a compliance framework that facilitates a faster and more technology-driven process. And I think another challenge is data security. So we are, of course, dealing with very sensitive data of our customers. To safeguard that data and to ensure it is only used where necessary and according to the regulatory framework of data security and data privacy regulations. I think that's another key challenge.
Thanks. And Robin, I'd like to move across to you. So in the UK, I mean, we've spoken previously about how many properties are sold via auction. How would you address concerns about the reputation of certain sales methods, such as auctions in the UK? And how do we best go about introducing technology-driven solutions for these approaches?
So I think the first thing to sort of point out is that technology is only as good as the people that use it. And it's fundamentally, property is a people-orientated sector, right? So in order to a lot of the challenges that we will all have as technology businesses is actually they're not technology necessarily technology problems. They are people related problems. They are issues such as presumably in Conrad's sector there will be, I don't have the time to implement this into my business because my fee earners have 70 to 100 cases that they need to work on a daily basis, and they just don't have the time to implement additional processes. And the challenges therefore for us all as technology businesses is to convince those users and those companies that actually we are time savers, but they have to put the time in at the top to get the results at the bottom. And I think those are the kinds of challenges that we're all facing as as an industry. I think in terms of sort of making our solutions more widely adoptable and widely available, the first thing is knowledge. Agents have precious little time, and so there isn't a huge amount, especially in a market like this at the moment, but there isn't a huge amount of time for learning and development and for general upskilling. And I think, if we can help them with that sort of upskilling whilst they build new offers into their businesses, then that actually, that's going to help them in the long term. It's going to help us as a business, but it's going to help the industry in general. So I think regulatory, so there's legislation coming in around regulation of agents, so ROPA, that's coming in soon. We anticipate, and I think that's going to be a really positive thing for the industry. It's going to professionalize the industry more. Obviously, you've got chartered surveyors, which is great, but in the estate agency side, there isn't that layer of regulation, that layer of professionalization, and I think that will be a really welcome addition to the transaction process. It breeds trust with consumers. And consumers then when they have trust, they have greater confidence, and when they have greater confidence, they have a better experience. And I think those are the kinds of things that regulation can bring to the space.
Thanks. And AJ, moving across to you, what would you say are some of the obstacles that exist for, say, smaller firms and individuals in accessing advanced digital tools for property?
I think everybody's touched on the same point. I think it's barriers of entry are usually technical expertise. I think a lot of the industries that we're working in within the PropTech community have got legacy processes which have been adopted for years and years and years. And when change comes across, the fear of change usually triggers that alarm bell that states it's going to be expensive, I don't have the time, and cost effectively, I'm working okay at the moment. Whereas what we're trying to do is try to create a solution that's actually going to improve their services. And I think everybody within the panel has probably got a good solution to be able to save time, and time is probably the benefit for every business out there. So from a small business perspective, once they understand that the cost is actually going to be much more effective to them in the long run, as opposed to just a short term, this is going to cost you X amount of money, then they're quite eager to change. So what we've done to counteract that is we've eliminated all contracts from our commitment contracts from our product portfolio. So you can try us and then see us. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But then we'll also implement a change process that will allow you to understand how it's going to improve your service. And then every single customer, I can say that hand on heart, every single customer that we've had has then seen the benefit, and then they've taken out commitments with us without a contract. So they're saying that they'll produce 10, 15 properties per month because they know that they're saving a lot more time, and that was the value that's being added to them. And then Robin, when you're saying about estate agency regulatory change, in Wales, there's Rent Smart Wales who are producing a regulatory change for the rental market, whereby landlords are required to be able to have midterm inspections put into the properties. Now, for an estate agent to schedule viewings and inspections and then compile a report is too much time, whereas the software and AI is able to do that within 15 minutes. We've done an estate agency practice with 700 properties in 3 months, cleared off their whole inspection reports, everything to the regulatory compliance requirement. For a fraction of the cost it would have been to employ somebody, and then the amount of time it would have taken for them to learn, and then the risk involved with their liabilities. So we've taken all of that burden for a fraction of the cost. And when you weigh it up that way, a small business can then see it. It's an investment in their time.
Yeah, I was going to say there is an element of this where, if you're a chartered surveyor, or if you're an agent, or if you're a property professional in general, in a way, you kind of don't have a choice. You kind of have to embrace some of this technology. If you don't, you're going to be moving backwards. And we're in a society, we're in a world, it's now post-COVID. I think the technology space in the property sector has moved, it's probably moved 5 to 10 years faster than it would have done had COVID not happened. But ultimately, it's highly likely, in fact, that today's buyers are going to be a generation, if not more than a generation, younger than today's sellers. And so the way that you communicate, because that is significant. You're generally talking about sellers who are, dare I say, baby boomers, and buyers who are millennials and Gen Zers. And that's significant. I apologize for generally stereotyping, but there'll be people on all ends of the spectrum here, but those two different generations require different communication styles and different entries into the market, right? So it is likely that the younger generations, millennials, Gen Zs, they are going to want virtual viewings. They are going to want to communicate through email or WhatsApp or text. I think there was a stat that I saw that 72% of millennials prefer text-based communication. Now, if you're an agent that is only picking the phone up, then chances are your buyers are not going to respond because they don't want to answer the phone to you. And it's an unknown number, they're not going to get it. So they barely answer the phone. I'll barely answer the phone to my family members. I'm not going to answer the phone to an unknown number. It's that kind of attitude. And I think in order to reach different buyer demographics, who are ultimately in the market and ready to go, if you want to service that market, you have to adapt your communication style. So being more proactive with virtual viewings, being more, embracing AI chatbots, which, I appreciate there's a bit of skepticism with them, but 50% of users will engage with one of those. Likewise, a seller is going to require a different kind of communication style. You may have to go and actually see them and sit in the living room and have a cup of tea with them. That's a different way of communicating with that particular person. But being versatile and adaptable is absolutely key to this, and that's why I say that the professionals in the property industry, they have to embrace some of this technology if they're going to want to continue to grow their businesses and expand in a market which, let's face it, in every other sector, technology is implementing its footprint. You just cannot escape the spillover of tech from other industries into the property sector. So in a way, I'll just say that those companies, those professionals that don't embrace the new way of technologies, new technologies and the new way of doing things, are kind of going to get left behind in the future.
I just wanted to touch on, I think it might be one for a later section, but I think the RICS regulation change for the Red Book valuations to incorporate AI, which was published on Monday, which takes effect on this 31st of January. I think that's a change that's commended, I think, from our side of the coin, because it's a huge advancement in valuations and methodology to incorporate the human interaction with the AI change that's inevitable. And I think those kind of changes are going to be the things that will then push the industry a lot further into the future, and then hopefully make a change on the end user, which fundamentally is the customer.
Thanks. Before we move on, I just want to hear Florian's thoughts on this topic. So given some of the comments that Robin just said, how a lot of estate agents and property professionals are outdated and potentially not got the technological solutions to meet their market, I'm curious to hear whether you've faced any unique challenges when integrating advanced location data with traditional methods. What challenges have you had with property professionals with this?
Yeah. So I think you have already spoken about many of the issues that are important here. I just want to emphasize maybe with the pain of choosing a technology that, especially if you're not from the space, like even for us that we're working with tech every day, if we have to choose for GeoSci a new database technology, this is really a difficult process, because very often it takes quite a while until you can really figure out if this was a good or a bad choice, because many of the things you do not directly see. And now real estate professionals who are not firstly technology people, they probably have it much more difficult to think through what kind of tech they actually need. And I think this is why actually it's super valuable what you're doing here, that you're guiding you're guiding the profession a little bit through the challenges and different solutions and so on, to give them a bit more ideas of what to choose maybe when they're thinking about solving their particular challenges. For us at GeoSci, I think this is something that we're currently figuring out. How do our location reports have to look like? In what format do we have to serve them? What kind of data do they have to include to be really valuable to surveyors? So this is why I'm also super happy to be here, and this is why I'm looking forward to feedback and maybe to continue this discussion to figure out what can we do to make location data really be useful to the profession.
Great, thanks. So now let's look at some of the solutions and current opportunities. As we've already seen, technology can make a big impact. Tools that we use every day, like DocuSign, can speed up contracts, and then there's AI-powered systems that can have a wide range of uses, like managing customer relationships. And a lot of estate agents have started to integrate prop tech tools. So, Konrad, taking a look at some of your own solutions and similar solutions, how does empowering clients to prepare their own transactions and giving that onus on the client, how does that create a more efficient process overall?
Yes, so just to zoom out a little bit, what we do at Conveyo is we basically allow the client, the buyer and the seller, to provide information that we require for their property transaction, and that allows them in their own time to provide that information, and at the same time takes the burden off the solicitor to gather this information manually. So ultimately, it allows us to significantly streamline the process and to reduce costs. I think what's very important is that the clients need guidance throughout this process. So it is important that we offer them sufficient support, are there for any questions that they may have when it comes to providing this information.
Thanks. And looking at the actual sales process itself, Robin, I'd like to move across to you. So looking at other markets and how they actually sell properties, specifically looking at auctions, what other lessons could be learned from other markets that do this successfully, like in the US or Australia, for example? And how can they help guide the adoption of this innovation of property sales methods in the UK?
So looking at the US and Australia, with specific focus on auctions, I would say that the UK is heavily underutilizing auctions as a method of sale. So my general message is do more of it, please. And then, I mean, if you look at Australia in general, you're talking about 50-60% of all transactions are carried out by auction. It's the most efficient way of selling a property. It's the most efficient way of selling anything, to be honest. You get the best possible price in the shortest space of time. And so from that point of view, it's the UK should be doing more. There's a perception, just to address the elephant in the room, there's a perception that auction is a method of last resort for distressed or toxic properties. That is not the case anymore. We have chocolate box, beautiful country houses prime country properties. We also have new build apartments in central London that are being sold by auction. The defining characteristic of whether a property is auctionable is the vendor's circumstances. Is the vendor looking to sell or transact quickly? If they are, then auction is a good route for that particular vendor. So I think the learning here is to kind of throw away the stereotype and to change perception of what auctions really are, not as a method of last resort, but actually as a really effective and efficient way to sell a property. It also, I mean, look, it helps that the weather in Australia is much better because it means that they can sell properties in their front lawn and they can carry out an auction there and then. But the fact that we've digitalized it means that people can actually transact online with just as much ease and speed as they would in any other way.
Yeah, great. Thanks. And AJ, moving across to you and looking at your solutions. So virtual tours have been around, well, since I've been looking for properties. So for me, in my experience, they're quite prominent now when it comes down to selling properties. But how does combining AI with 360 imaging technology for these virtual tours, how does it create more actionable insights for property professionals?
So yeah, you're right. Virtual tours have been around for about 3-4 years now. They're hopefully becoming the norm, which is a good thing. I think as technology is improving and as AI is developing, I think I heard a stat the other day that 2020 eye vision is 52 megapixels, whereas the camera technology that we've got capable of using is 134 megapixels. So using the AI condition report and using the Gemini vision feature, we'll be able to pick up and identify all of the defects within the property that some valuers, some property professionals are unable to capture using the human eye. So we're able to capture all of that information and then compile a report to produce data-driven decision-making information for those property professionals. So where they thought they might not have been able to see mold or damp or chips or scratches or irregularities within the property, the technology is able to pick it up and then be able to provide that property professional with the data-driven insight to make the correct valuation, and then safeguarding their professional indemnity, which is a key factor here as well, because a lot of surveyors and valuers at the moment are producing their reports with their PI at the back of their mind. Is that correct? Is this correct? Whereas utilizing the AI, it provides all of the metadata required for the reporting. It provides all of the information and all the visuals to support that decision-making process. Plus, it also gives you all of the surrounding data. And then hopefully with Florian's information, it gives you a comprehensive reporting method to be able to pass on to your lenders, to whoever it may be. So the development in AI is only increasing. The camera technology is only getting better. And then tie that in with the efficiency of reporting it. We can, like I said earlier, we can provide a valuation report for within 15 minutes of being in the property. And we've tested it against a level 2 valuation report. We can provide a level 2 valuation report under the same RICS standardized methodology within 45 minutes, comprehensively reducing the time and also providing all the same data. So that's increasing. Our goal here is to try and push the boundary even further to make it quicker and more accurate, so that then everybody is got a more secure method of analyzing data within the properties.
Yeah, quick question. I'm curious what it actually takes in terms of hardware, maybe, to get your models all that information to produce the valuation. Do you have to fly a drone over the property, for example, or is it all mobile phone based? The first question. Second question is, are you already in Germany? Or what's your plan for the future?
Fantastic question. Thank you. So we've got a global partnership with Ricoh. So the Ricoh Theta Z1 camera is our preferred supplier. There are many other cameras out there, for example, but we're developing that technology to be able to analyze using that camera. By the end of January, we should have a software capable of being utilized on any smartphone. So any valuer that wants to go into a property, so for example, any estate agent that wants to be able to get an accurate valuation, they'd be able to scan the property using the AI technology and then be able to send that through a mobile phone. We're not in Germany. We've only started in January, so we are trying to cross boundaries at the moment. So watch this space. We can the patent is for the UK, and the global partnership with RICO is 177 countries. So there's no limitation to where we can go.
Great. Since we're speaking a lot about AI, let's move on to our final topic, looking at AI and emerging technologies in the future. This is where we'll look at what's coming next. Technology like AI, machine learning, digital twins, and blockchain are already making huge moves within property. But what does the future hold for these tools? How will they transform property transactions, inspections, valuations in the future? So these last few questions, I want to explore some of the skills professionals need to stay ahead of these technologies. And I just want to hear about how you see the future of the industry adapting and what it means for professionals. So Florian, I'll start with you since I didn't ask you a question just. How do you see the future of location data and AI and improving property decisions in the coming years?
So I think a lot of the technology is already there. And I don't see a huge gap where we need a capability that still has to be developed. I think the challenge is more about distribution, go to market, making it usable for the industry. So integrating the new tech into existing processes, really making sure that this connection is there. I mean, it includes, of course, and maybe business models that still have to be developed to really be durable work for the long term. But I think all the components for a good solution are there. Like there's so much geodata, that. If I just look at OpenStreetMap, for example, Overture Maps, which is a new set of geodata from TomTom, Microsoft, Meta, recently Foursquare released 100 million points of interest for free, open source them that can be used. So there's a wealth of data. There's all the compute that we need. There has been so much progress with LLMs, making them accessible via API, that this is also not a barrier anymore. So I think in a couple of years, I would see all those technologies really coming together and starting to be used large scale in the industry, and also then to really create a lot of value in the industry.
Thanks. And Konrad, looking at this from a conveyancing perspective, we've touched a bit on AI. Do you see any potential for tools like predictive analytics and machine learning? Do you see any potential for that to be integrated into the legal aspects of property transactions?
Yes, I do. I think the AI and machine learning will help us going forward to tailor the experience more around the individual client, and to their needs, really. So it will support the solicitors in their attempt to deliver excellent client service. It will also help us to anticipate potential issues in a transaction and to proactively address these issues, which again allows us to streamline the process and come to a much leaner and much faster process in the end. Then I think there's an angle that AI will also help to improve security when it comes to protecting sensitive data. There's a lot going on in the market at the moment. So yeah, I think those are really important drivers going forward.
Thanks. And looking at how AI is used in valuation and digital tours, for example, AJ, how do you envision AI evolving to provide even greater insights during the virtual inspection process or valuations?
I think the technology is getting and moving at such a fast rate that technology from Apple Vision, for example, utilizing the goggles to be able to then use augmented reality to increase the AI capabilities, using RPA, robotic process automation, to be able to remove administrative tasks within the reporting process and then make the process of data collection even quicker. Predictive analytics can also be incorporated by using market data, live market data, to speed up the more accurate reporting. So at the moment, we can compile data from within up to 6 months. But at the moment, we want to try and push that further and further and further so that then we can get it to as live as possible. So we can say if the property sold in 3 weeks or 2 weeks ago, to be able to say, well, this is the property that was sold 2 weeks ago. This is the value. This is the condition. This is the reason why. And this is the value for your property that we'd be able to lend against.
Thanks. And finally, Robin, moving across to you. We've spoken about the elephant in the room, and I'm curious to really understand how you see advancements in technology reducing the stigma and misconceptions around innovative sales methods.
So I think case studies are the best way. Case studies and word of mouth are the best way of reducing stigma, because your proof is in the pudding at that point. I think it's really important when we're talking about AI to recognize that AI is only as good as the data that you put in. So, you know, if you put poor data in, you're going to get poor data out ultimately. So making sure that the people who are behind the tools, the AI tools that are being used, it's making sure that they know what they're doing and that they do it properly and that they're gathering data in an ethical way and that it's all really compliant. I think those are things that are really important that breed confidence and trust. And I think ultimately, confidence and trust are the two things that are going to encourage users, agents, surveyors, lawyers, doesn't matter who it is. Confidence and trust in a product, in a system, is the fundamental thing that encourages use, that will propagate use of a platform. So I think from that point of view, that's kind of my opinion generally on AI. I think it's only as good as the people behind it. But I do think that improving customer touch points, providing more information at point of sale to both buyer and seller, and I know that everybody around this panel is totally invested in providing more information and more accurate information to people. Those are the kinds of things that encourage greater use of technologies going forwards.
Great. And just another question, Robin. Are there any skills that sales professionals should develop to stay competitive in this evolving space?
Yes, I think I think the fundamental skill that I think is going to be required in the future is actually going to be communication. And I think we're in a dangerous space at the moment where we're potentially getting, not necessarily in the property sector, but in general, wider society, we're a little bit overly dependent on technology to do things for us. And I think the ability to communicate effectively with people around us is going to be that primary skill set. And I think if you're in sales, and if you're in particular in the property space, there is not going to be a substitute. Like, estate agents are never going to be replaced. Lawyers and conveyancers, solicitors are never going to be replaced, and neither are chartered surveyors. And so from that point of view, the ability to communicate and interact with your end customer in whichever form, the ability to communicate is going to be absolutely essential.
If I may add one skill that I think is really critical, which is critical thinking, because in the end, all those technology is relying on AI. I think this is such such a productivity boost to professionals, still, I think sometimes, I mean, also me personally, we take it too far, that we rely too much on the information that an AI may provide us, and we stop questioning, okay, what, as Robin said, what was actually the data that was fed into the system? Is it enough data to really answer the question that that I've asked myself? So I think this is a skill that probably becomes even more important as AI systems are getting more ubiquitous, to question, does this result really make sense, and not blindly trust everything that a machine learning model or an AI gives us. I think, yeah, this is something that I'd like to add.
Cool. So thanks to our panelists for your valuable insights today. We've seen how technology, from AI to virtual tools and geospatial analytics, we've seen how technology is reshaping property transactions and all that comes with it, like inspections and valuations. It's clear that the future of property will rely heavily on new tools and skills. And as technology evolves, so must professionals in the sector, whether it's adapting to new sales methods or understanding the role of data analytics. I hope this discussion has sparked new ideas for everyone. Thanks for the panel for participating, and to our listeners for listening into this discussion. We look forward to seeing how these innovations shape the future of property. But for today, let's keep this conversation going, and I look forward to speaking about this again. Thank you.